Welcome in. We've got our the first episode of Talk IA for the 24-25 basketball season. I'm here with my co-host, Talon. We are going to be starting a new segment here for IABasketball. Kind of the first season. I kind of messed around with it last year. I didn't really commit too hard to it. But this year we're going all in. And we've got a new show for you guys. We're going to call it Dunks and Dogs. Kind of the same premise that me and Cade had with our Locks and Dogs show with football. But this one's going to be better because me and Talon are a couple of ball knowers, a couple of guys who know what they're talking about. Talon,
Yeah, we are.
what are your thoughts on the week one coming up here?
We got a lot of good matchups coming up in week one. Of course, some teams just getting a easy game with a lower A opponent, or a lot of rivalries that we'll see. Should get a little chippy, but should produce some pretty good games.
Yeah, I think there are some pretty good games there in week one. A lot of big tests, which we're going to get into here shortly. Before we get started, just quickly want to go over what to expect today. We have Nelly and Nick's picks. We're going to be picking on some games from each class. We're going to be talking about some of the games of the week. We might be picking some of those as well. And tomorrow you can expect the preseason rankings. That'll be here on the IA Sports YouTube channel tomorrow, and we'll be dropping the graphics for those on Instagram and X Tuesday before that big slate of games. Take it easy on the rankers that we've got. The preseason rankings, I mean, they're pretty much impossible. We have no idea what to expect from these teams. Some of them are returning a lot of guys from a successful team, and they might not be so good as they were last year. It's so hard to know, but you'll be able to see that and more coming this week in this first week of games. So I think we should get into it with our picks. We are going to go ahead and start with Class 4A, and there you can see our picks. So Dunks, that's kind of like our more confident one that we're going to hope on winning. That will be worth 1 point, similar to how a lock would be for the Locks and Dogs. And our dog, same sort of premise, 2 points if you get it. That team is sort of an underdog that you're picking to win against a team that would be considered better. So, Talon, do you want to get us started here with your Dunks and Dogs for week one?
I would love to. My 4A dunk is going to be Hawkeyes over Indianola. I think they'll have a pretty easy matchup. They'll play on Tuesday, and it'll be at Indianola, so I guess a little road challenge for Hawkeyes. But I do have Hawkeyes. I believe we have them pretty high up in our rankings this year, and they're returning good players from last year. If I just pull that up, they've always been a solid team. I mean, yeah, it looks like they're bringing back Evan Jacobson, their second leading scorer. He had 12.9 points per game last year as a sophomore, so we'll look for a big jump from him. And for my dog, I have Southeast Polk over Johnston. I think that should be a very good game. Southeast Polk definitely has the firepower. Of course, they did lose their leading scorer to Hawkeyes Northwest, but they should still have a solid squad and could possibly pull off that upset against a very powerful Johnston team.
Johnston, they were pretty impressive last year. And going on Hawkeyes, that was one game that I went to last year was Hawkeyes and Hawkeyes Northwest. That was a really fun one. Anytime those two teams clash, I mean, it's always such an exciting game. So we'll be looking forward to that. Maybe that'll be a potential game that I go to here in central Iowa. But we'll get it started here with my Dunks and Dogs. I'm going to go with Sioux City East for my dunk. They're taking on Spencer this week, and Sioux City, kind of a quiet team. They are ranked, well, kind of a sneak preview. They will be ranked in our rankings video that we show tomorrow. But they're bringing back quite a few starters from last year. They missed out on AJ Flemister and Fitzy Grant. I'm sorry if I'm saying any of those names wrong. But bringing back a pair of brothers, both sophomores, Bilal Yusuf and Naif Yusuf. And I'm hoping I'm saying that right as well.
I believe so.
You think? What'd you say?
I think it is Yusuf. I think we'll have to we'll have to travel down there to Sioux City and see. It's a trek from Iowa City for sure.
For me too, in Iowa. They're bringing back 3 starters from last year, though. All had really solid seasons all around, so that's huge for Sioux City East. They're looking to take on that Missouri River Conference and potentially get into the playoffs this year. And I think they'll start on the right foot this year against Spencer. So that's going to be my dunk for this week. I'll be looking for Sioux City East to pull off a win there. And my dog for this week, potentially the game of the week, especially in Class 4A. I'm going to go ahead and pick on Bettendorf over Linmar. Talon, I know you said that you might be potentially going to this game.
I will be present at that game. We should have some pretty good content.
I think that's going to be a pretty exciting game. I won't ask you to pick on it because pretty close to the student section in those basketball courts. You could get it ugly real fast if you pick against the team.
I mean, it just depends on if Bettendorf can slow Davis Kern down. I mean, I believe he was the state's leading scorer in 4A last year, and he's probably on a little bit of a revenge tour for the team not performing as well, but I believe they're pretty high ranked, and Bettendorf's also pretty high ranked in our rankings too.
Yeah, I do want to quickly apologize to Davis Kern, who I did not – I put his name as Davis Green in our points per game leader graphic last week, and I was clowned a bit for it in the comments section, which was well-deserved. Davis Kern, a lot of respect for him. Yeah, he's the top returning scorer in Class 4A, and he's taking on a Bettendorf team who, that they're looking really solid this year. But, alas, I'm going to go with Bettendorf to win that game. I believe that was our game of the week as well. Correct me if...
We will talk about that game.
Yeah,
a little bit later.
That will be our game of the week that we talk about here shortly. But we could go ahead and move on to our 3A picks. Talon, I'll let you get us started here. Dunks and dogs, what you got?
My 3A dunk for the week is going to be Keokuk over Washington, the Washington Demons. They have some returning players, and Jackson Clark averaged 19.8 points per game as a sophomore last year for Keokuk. And I believe he's going to take a big jump there. That sophomore to junior year is right about when they're hitting their growth spurts, and probably start dunking on some people here soon. But I believe they'll have a pretty solid team. They're returning a lot of starters. We have Brenton Horde here and Trammell Smith. They're both returning for Keokuk. I think they'll have a solid year, and I think they're going to start out pretty well against Washington. And for my 3A dog, I'm going to have Norwalk over Ballard. And Ballard, I believe, is very high ranked in our 3A rankings. But Norwalk, of course, losing their star Reddick Bourne last year to college. He was a dog, we'll say that. But they are returning Cameron Thomas and Timothy Kolserman. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but hopefully those guys will step up and take a charge and possibly come out on top over the Bombers from Ballard.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Ballard, if I remember correctly, I think they are number 2 in the 3A rankings. I know for a fact they're in that top 5, top 10 range. So
yeah, it looks like number 2.
Yeah, my memory serves me well, I suppose. But yeah, that's going to be a huge game, a really exciting one, kind of an underrated one that it's kind of flying under the radar. As I was looking through these games. All right, my dunk for this week, I'm gonna go with Storm Lake over. I gotta pull up the game. Sioux City North. That's right. Storm Lake over Sioux City North. Storm Lake, another team that's gonna be appearing in our rankings. here in the next couple days. They had a solid year last year. As I'm going to pull up some of their returning starters from last year. Looks like they bring back 3 starters from a solid year that they had last year. Looking at some of these guys that they had. Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. Charlie Verston. I guarantee you I said that one wrong. I'm really sorry, Charlie, but you had a solid year last year as a starter. One big one that they bring back is Jaden Kuhn. He had 19.8 points per game last year, the sophomore. So coming into his junior season, we'll be expecting big things from him this season. As Storm Lake, we have them highly ranked in our rankings that you will see coming up. So a lot of big things in the future for them. And coming up with my dog, arguably the game of the week for Class 3A, Clear Creek Amana, who is a very underrated and highly ranked team in 3A, going up against Iowa City West, another team who will be ranked.
Should be very good, yeah.
I think it's going to be a great game. Iowa City West and CCA both bringing back some really good starters. Obviously, City West has McCaffrey, big name. He's got a lot of legendary status, I guess you could say, from Fran and some of his very talented brothers. And Iowa City West, same spot last year. They played CCA in the opening week, and they whooped them 85-56. This is going to be kind of a revenge tour for the Clippers. And I think the Clippers can sneak in a little 4A win to start the season. But regardless, we'll move on to Class 2A picks. Nelly, I'll let you take it away with your dunks and dogs.
All right, my 2A dunk 4-2. My 2A dunk 4-2A is going to be the Underwood Eagles. They are taking on Audubon, and the Underwood Eagles, obviously a very good squad, always have been. And they're returning, I believe they're not their leading scorer, but they're returning a solid player off the bench in Garrett Lewitt as a sophomore. A lot of guys who had a lot of playing time last year will be coming back, and of course they do lose a lot of firepower up top from that senior class. But with these smaller classes, seniors are going to be playing, and they're going to be putting up the stats. But I believe Underwood should have a cruise to a win over Audubon, and we'll see how that game goes. We'll have some eyes on it for sure. And then for my 2A dog of the week, I'm going to take Trainer over Bishop Heelan. Bishop Heelan, a 3A school, playing down against Trainer. They usually play around the start of the year. I believe they played last year, and Heelan came out on top, 81-63. So they did get walked a little bit, but Trainer coming back from a very good season, losing to Western Christian at the state tournament. They should have some solid guys coming back, and Alec Lovely and Corbin Thiem coming back. And Alec Lovely, I believe, he was a double-digit scorer last year, so hopefully he will bring some firepower to that Trainer offense for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that little football reference. Garrett Lewitt, he was the leader of the Underwood Eagles this year, a very talented quarterback as well. I went to go film him early this football season. But my dunk for this week, I'm going to go with the number one team in Class 2A, Western Christian. They're taking on Sergeant Bluff Luton, recent runner-up in football as well. Or third place, sorry.
Yes.
Third place. They lost in the semifinals in a really close game with Waller. Regardless, that was a great game. Western Christian, I think the hype is real for this team. They bring back Kirsten Morit, a junior from last year. He had 13.5 points a game. They're bringing back, let's see here. They also bring back Caden Van Regenmorter. He had 19.1 points per game last year, and Western Christian won a state title last year. They brought back some really solid key pieces in that state title run that they had, and I think they're going to keep it up with a win over SBL this week. And my dog for this week, I'm going to take Grandview Christian over Roland Story, the Norseman. You cannot talk about Grandview Christian without talking about Emiliano Barantes, one of the best players in the state. He is extremely talented, coming back for his senior season with Grandview Christian. I don't believe Grandview Christian is preseason ranked, but they had a really good year.
I don't believe so.
I think they are preseason unranked, but as far as I know, Roland Story is, and this would be a huge win for the Thunder. You bring back the top scorer in Class 2A, Barantes. He had 27.4 points per game, and an underrated bring back that they have as well as Braden Hoban. He had 15.9 points per game last year. Really solid score for them. He's just a sophomore. So I'm going to be looking at the Thunder to potentially crack into the rankings with an impressive win in Week 1. And we'll move on to our final class of the segment, our 1A picks. Nelly, what you got?
For my 1A dunk, I'm going to take Madrid over Southeast Valley, a very solid Madrid team. Lost by 3 points in that sub-state championship game to go to Wells Fargo Arena, but they do bring back their top 3 scorers. The trio of Torrin, Severson, Brody Buck, and Fabian Ortiz Alañez. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but all double-digit 15-plus scorers. Very high-powered offense from those top 3 at Madrid. And for my 1A dog, I'm taking Murray over Bedford. I didn't know much about Murray before I started researching these 1A teams, but they got some dogs down there, the Mustangs do, down that Bluegrass Conference. They got the senior duo of Austin Peterson and Caden Page, 12 points per game and 10.1 respectively. And I believe that they could pull it off against a solid Bedford team that I believe is ranked, number 15 on our 1A rankings preseason. I believe that they could definitely pull off an upset there. I believe they played last year and might have lost, but it's a new year, new team down in Murray.
Yeah, I like those picks. Torrin Severson, another football guy. I think he is one of I'm pretty sure he's a returning top scorer from Class 1A. Regardless, Madrid had an amazing season last year, and I think they can repeat some success this year as well. I think they're top 5 in their preseason ranks. I think you mentioned that. But expecting a lot from them this year. So my dunk for this week, I'm going with Kyoto, another ranked team that we will be seeing tomorrow. I really liked this team last year. I thought they kind of underperformed from what they could have potentially had. This time last year, playing Louisa Muscatine, they took care of business pretty handedly, 84-59 there. And you're bringing back the lineup that you are. Billy Kindred is the guy to know that they bring back. He had a solid year last year, coming in for his senior season, and I'm expecting a lot from the Eagles this year. They lost a couple of those key guys that contributed to their success last season. But, I think they were good enough last year. I think this is a good enough program that they can start on the right foot yet again this week. And so I'm going to be expecting a win from them. And my dog for this week, I've got Waco in what I believe is the game of the week that we picked for.
It is Holy Trinity Catholic.
Holy Trinity Catholic. Holy Trinity Catholic in the top 5. Waco just missed the top 16. They are not preseason ranked.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be a
very good squad.
And a really good team that, maybe that's kind of bullet board material for them to pick up a win against, what our rank-up believes to be potentially one of the best teams in the state. So that would be a huge exclamation mark to start the season and get them off on the right foot. So that'll be my dog for this week. Nelly, should we take it to our Games of the Week segment?
Shall we?
Let's get it going here. We'll start with 4A again.
All
Week
right.
1, Game of the Week, Class 4A. Number 2, Linn-Mar, taking on number 6, Bettendorf. We talked about this a little bit earlier with my picks. Nelly, you're going to this one. What do you see with this matchup?
I'll be there. Of course, I mentioned earlier it depends on if Bettendorf can stop Davis Kern. I mean, he's a very prolific scorer in Class 4A. Linn-Mar last year was 16-7, Bettendorf 18-7. And Linn-Mar came out on top in this matchup last year, 55-51. So very close matchup. I'm assuming it'll be pretty close again. And some other players to look out for Linn-Mar and Bettendorf are Payson Niedert for Linn-Mar. He averaged 10.1 points per game last year. And then for Bettendorf, we have Ben Kirchhoff and Cole Odafe, I would like to say. And they both had a solid year as well. They will be stepping into bigger roles as Bettendorf did lose a couple of seniors. But some other notes for this game is they're two very good three-point shooting teams, and they're both within the top 10 in their classes. Linn-Mar was shooting at a 58.9% clip last year, and Bettendorf at 36.6%. So metaphorically and literally, we should have a shootout on our hands in 4A.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to be there live for on the floor. So kudos to you. I'm excited for you for that game. I am planning on, in case anybody cares, I plan on going to Ankeny and Valley. That is another ranked battle between some CIML foes. Valley, reigning state champs, number 1 team headed in this year. They got a lot on their shoulders. Couple highly touted recruits. So I just wanted to throw that in there in case anybody was curious. We'll move on to our 3A game of the week. This one, our week 1 game of the week. Number 2, Ballard versus number 14, Bondurant Farrar. What do you got on this game?
All right, 16-9 Ballard was last year, 15-10 Bondurant Farrar was. I did have a little discussion with the ranker as we were trying to find them. And they said that these teams are very hard to – the teams in 3A are a lot harder to rank, I'd say. There's not a lot of parity there. All these teams are very solid squads. And Bondurant won this game last year, 74-69 over Ballard. But Ballard does have a solid squad, of course, the number 2 ranked team in 3A. Some players to look out for on the court will be Cole Miller and Hudson McConnell for Bondurant Farrar, both double-digit plus scoring leaders for that team. And then Jude Gibson, the sophomore last year, averaged 17 points per game as a sophomore. So coming in as a junior, he should be pretty solid. And then Jackson Brown, of course, 14.5 points per game for Ballard as well. And just like similar to the 4A game, both teams are very good behind the arc. Top 10 again in 3A and 3-point percentage, 36.4 for Ballard, 33.2 for Bondurant Farrar.
Yeah, and like you said, it is impossible, especially with these highly competitive classes where you have so many great teams to rank. We just won't know until they've played a handful of games, and to give you, true, good, accurate rankings. But we took our best shot. And I think this one's going to be a great game. It'll be a fun one to watch. Our week 1 game of the week for Class 2A, one that we talked about a little bit earlier, number 8 Trainer versus unranked Bishop Heelan. What should we look for in this one?
Yeah, I did talk about this game earlier in my Dunks and Dogs. I do have Trainer coming out there as a dog against Bishop Heelan. And I believe that they could definitely pull it off. Bishop Heelan, 14-10 last year, solid year, and Trainer 22-4, of course, losing to Western Christian at that state tournament. Bishop Heelan won last year, 81-63. But I could see some parity happening here. Bishop Heelan not returning any of their top scorers from last year, but a lot of solid role players that did get the job done off the bench. Charlie Van Drager, Kaysen Thomas, and Grant Whitcomb all coming off the bench for Bishop Heelan last year. Should look for them in the starting lineup. And then, of course, earlier I mentioned Alec Lovely and Corbin Thien for Trainer. They should be those leading scorers and leading that offense, hopefully for me, a win over Bishop Heelan.
Yeah, Cason Thomas. I like seeing these football names come up. Cason Thomas was the 3A running back of the year. I'll be interested to see how good of a baller he is on the hardwood. So that'll be a fun one to keep up with. And to finish us off with our games of the week, week 1, Class 1A. Another one that we talked about just a moment ago, number 4, Holy Trinity, taking on a closely unranked Waco. What should we know for this game?
Wow, this is going to be a very different game on both sides of the ball. Difference could be from behind the arc. Waco, 26.6% from three was 52nd in 1A last year. And Holy Trinity Catholic came in at 33.6, which was 13th. So you could see a lot more paint dedicated ball from Waco. And Waco was 18-6 last year, and our number 4 ranked Holy Trinity Catholic was 19-6. I think Waco just barely squeaked behind those top 16 rankings. But Holy Trinity took this one 59-50 in last year's matchup, and Luke Hellage is the returning scorer for Holy Trinity Catholic, 23.9 points per game. That is a number we should talk about more. And they had an 18.7 point differential in games last year, absolutely blowing teams out of the water. Waco returning senior Isaac Rich and Clayton Miller, who had solid years last year at 6.1 and 4.5 points per game.
All right, that was a good segment there, Nelly. I'm glad you put that together. Kind of a nice addition there at the end. There's just not as many classes to talk about as there was for football. We have 7 classes to cover, and so I think this was a nice little addition to the end of the show to just talk about some more games and get some more content out there. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching our first edition of Talk IA. Be sure to give us a like, hit the subscribe button. Give us comments. We love reading the comments, seeing what you guys think. Shooting your opinions down there, giving us some crap for terrible picks or maybe recognizing our ball knowledge. Regardless, please show us some love. Make sure that you come back tomorrow for our rankings show, and check us out on X and Instagram for those rankings graphics and all content coming up this week, covering the first week of the season. But that's going to do it for us, and we will see you this time next week.